The August meeting of the Batavia Township Board of Trustees. And Walt, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Just for the benefit of those citizens who might be viewing us on BATV, let me introduce who's here. I am Lee Tracy, the Batavia Township trustee. I mean supervisor. I used to be a trustee. I'm no longer a trustee. I'm a supervisor. And to my left is Layla Brown, who is the township clerk, and Walt Donnet, who is a trustee, whoever he is. Joe Bartholomew, who is a trustee. And we have Chris Long to my right, who is a Township Highway Commissioner. And Jim Anderson, who is a trustee. And we have this evening a guest, Karina Villa, who is our state representative representing most of Batavia.
That's right.
Okay, and we have our videographer, again, this month, Jim Jakubowski. Let me just mention a couple things coming up on our calendar, and that is, if anyone would like to go to a celebrating 60 years of Batavia Enterprises, who is our landlord here, on Tuesday, September 5th, from 4 to 7 p.m., it's taking place. Also, if anybody wants to go with me to Ride and Cane, meeting at the Kane County Government Center on Tuesday, September 10th at 8 a.m. There's also we also have a next town. 9 a.m., I'm sorry, it's 9 a.m. Thank you, sir. And we also have the next Township Board meeting that evening at 7 p.m. Wednesday, September 18th is the Kane County Township Supervisors at 10 a.m. in the morning, where I will be, if anybody wants to come with. Just for your information, upcoming in October on the 23rd is the Township Officials of Kane County Annual Banquet. And as we all know, in November 10th through 12th is the Township Officials of Illinois Annual Conference in Springfield. And more about that later. So currently what we're going to do is take a little break while the trustees, well actually what let's do first is have the clerk call the roll. That's next on the agenda.
All right. Anderson?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Here.
Donnet?
Here.
West? Absent.
Absent.
Okay.
Good. What we're going to do now is one of the important functions of the township trustees is to approve the bills for payment, and we also review the checking accounts to make sure there's money in the accounts to pay those bills. So that's what we will do now.
What do we got? I haven't done this before, so.
Well, you need help. That's it?
Yeah, I'm running the green folder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give you how to sort your spreadsheets. Like a little one off coming up.
Did you sort by spreadsheet?
Yeah, well, I want to be able to put the bills in, and if I put them in alphabetical order, just put them in as I type them.
And then, so,
And then
yeah.
sort
Okay, sure.
on that one, make sure all the columns check.
Yeah.
You could show me that.
I could have shown.
You're very clever.
Apparently not.
I know, but you've been doing this for a while, haven't you?
2 months.
Oh, ever since nobody helped you. Since we're inadequate.
I'm just helping out.
Thank you very much.
He's helping out. Hoping to get me back when I get it tomorrow.
If you trust me, the GA is in balance.
Huh?
I said the GA fund is in balance, but I can't go any further than that.
Oh dear.
I need somebody to call him off again.
We do the cover sheet, we don't have to do these individually, right?
Well, we really should. If it,
So the general fund, yes.
the general fund, yeah,
Not the road fund.
not the road fund, for some reason.
Yeah, you don't have to go through all those.
So as long as we have 3 initials, it would be nice. Hmm? We can pay the bills tomorrow or sometime.
That is my hearing tomorrow.
Good.
Bills, Thursday file.
You are so... Oh, so we're all set.
When you enter the bills for Cargill, enter each one individually, so they have the invoice number
Oh, yeah.
and stuff.
Okay, so there we are.
Okay.
Jim, do you want to go through these checks with me?
Sure.
Very good.
Do you call them off or do I?
You'll have them in order on there, so it'll probably best if you call them off.
Okay, 6051, 7420,
Yep.
52, 2960, 41,
Yep.
53, 21780,
Yep.
54, 663, 16,
Yes.
55, 19725,
Yep.
56, 236, 34,
Yes.
57, 266, 66, 58, 12,727, 20,
Correct.
59, 859.50,
Yep.
60, 4231,
Yes.
62, 133.52,
Yes.
okay, 63, $1,000,
Yep.
64, 938, 66, 122,
Yep.
67, 38.55,
Yes.
68, 144,
Yep.
69, 45.87,
One over here. Yes.
44, yeah, okay. 70, 109.58,
Yep.
that should be it, right?
Yep. What's the ending balance you got?
All right, 482, 274.91.
That's all good.
We are very quiet.
West isn't here.
We don't have any rabble rousers.
We have a lot of bills for general. A lot of bills for general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, I was looking at that.
We're spending money.
And it's gonna be tired tomorrow. for road and bridge.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
little bit,
Yeah.
Your hand's gonna be sore too, you're gonna have a lot of checks to sign.
I'd like to sign checks. It's not my
Or
money.
not your money.
It's not my money.
I just wish I could pay mine at home with these three fucking big ones down here.
I know, we have money in bank. Thanks to the taxpayers.
Right.
Yeah.
Walk through that, and I'll you to you or you to me?
I'll have you start, because mine are kind of all jumping out of order here.
$480. You want by the amount or the check number?
Both, please.
4957, 480.
Yep.
4958, $16.
Yes.
4971, 7476, 0.89.
Correct?
4972, 395.36.
Yep.
4973, 4695.11.
Yep.
4974, 36.45.
Yep.
4975, 5211.
Yep.
4976, 573.16.
Yep.
4977, $90.
Yep.
4978, $252.71.
Yep.
4979, 7118.
Yes.
4980, $300.
Yep. Ending balance of 665, 910.55.
It's on the front page, your first statement.
Do I not have the front page? Last page 2.
Yeah, I got it in here. Cool. Those match up. Awesome.
Almost. Okay. All set.
We're all ready to roll. So we have money and we've approved the bill.
I think I can never remember. Thank you.
What they said.
Spending money. Spending the taxpayers' money. That's good. Thank you. Okay.
Jim, you need that motion.
Okay. So, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move
For
that we
July.
approve the minutes for July 2019.
Second.
Excellent job.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Is there anything else that we need, any other suggestions or additions? None so.
Representative
That's okay, clerk will call the roll.
Donick,
Yes.
Petromeo,
Aye.
Anderson.
All right.
Good. So, do we have a motion to approve the bills for July?
I will move. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the payment of the bills for July. Any other discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Donick,
Yes.
Petromeo.
Aye.
Very good. Let's see, next on the agenda is the assessor's report, and Tammy Kavanaugh, our assessor, is not here, but she asked that I inform you that the assessor's office published the assessments for the next year on July 11th, 2019. They were published in the paper. They've been busy answering phone calls and dealing with those questions. The deadline to file an assessment appeal ended on August 12th. It's now the 13th, so that period is over. So the next step for them is to deal with the appeals that go to the county. Okay? So, how about a road commissioner's report?
Well, fortunately, things are fairly quiet. Storms haven't hurt us too bad. We're busy finishing up our drainage corrections for the year since we had a late start. We've got a couple more months to do that. Brush pickup is every Monday. We'll be looking at leaf pickup coming up in October. Road projects are on track. Geneva Construction got the bid for our main project. They should be in hopefully next couple of weeks. Deer Path Road, most of Deer Path Road will be corrected, fixed underneath, and then resurfaced.
Great. Okay-doke. So, old business. You have in your packet a resolution 81319, which replaces resolution 7819, which we passed at the last meeting. Let me just explain that this is for IMRF. The Board of Trustees of IMRF has now changed their requirements so that for elected officials currently, we need to perform duties for 1,000 hours per year. So we need to pass a resolution saying that, in essence, I'm working 1,000 hours a year, which I'll just tell you that if you work 5 hours per day for 5 days per week for 40 hours, you work 1,000 hours. So I would entertain a motion to approve resolution 81319.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve resolution 81319. Any other discussion? If not, have the clerk call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Bartholomew,
Aye.
Bonnet.
Yes.
Motion passed. Thank you.
Is the rest of the township still on $600?
Yes.
Yeah, there's so-called tier 1 and tier 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the other people qualify under tier 1, I think.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
All righty. I just want to mention that the Township Officials of Illinois Annual Educational Conference in Springfield is November 10 through 20. I think what I'm just going to assume is that I will be attending, Jim Anderson will be attending, Tammy Cavanaugh will be attending, Chris Long will be attending, Layla Brown will be attending, I think Joe will be attending, Walt Donna and John West, and I think from our assessor's office, Riley Cavanaugh and Susie Williams. What I'll do is to email people to make sure that they are going to attend and what kind of housing arrangements that we have, and then I will send all that information in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
I should have, I think I kept all that from last year.
Yeah, it's in there.
Yeah, send it in early.
I'm going to send it in early so we all get adequate housing.
Just send the stuff in from last year.
I could send the stuff in from there, send it all in.
Take Kelly off and that.
Okay. So, new business. You have in your packet a agreement between the township and social welfare agencies. Let me explain what I did. We have been funding social welfare agencies from the county for some time. We have $120,000 budgeted in this year's budget for this purpose. Just to avoid any concerns about townships supporting agencies in the community, I'm going to suggest that we adopt an agreement. I stole this unabashedly from Elgin Township, which does the same thing. So you have in your packet an agreement. So what the procedure is that we already have applications from social welfare agencies for funding. We've received those. I've communicated with all of them. We are considering them, and we'll let them know shortly after this meeting as to what kind of funds they will receive. And we'll use this agreement for that purpose, which in essence says we're providing the funding for you, and we expect you to spend it according to these requirements, and you're going to report back to us how you expend the money. In essence, that's what it said. So what I'd like to do is have a motion to approve this procedure and to approve using this agreement with those agencies that receive our money.
So ultimately, each agency that receives the money is going to have the dollar amount that they receive?
Yeah, it will be entered, yeah. And then what will happen is that I'll sign it, we'll send it to them, ask them to acknowledge it, sign it back, and then we'll return it to them with a check.
I'll move that we approve the agreement.
Good, is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, let's have the clerk call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Bartholomew.
Good, motion passed.
Did we ever get a response from Elder Day?
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay.
did.
Also in your package, and this is what the next thing I'd ask for you to do, is a listing of proposed funding for each of these agencies. It shows you what we gave last year. All of these agencies were funded last year except for Rehome Center, which you received no application for, and I reached out to them and I have not heard from them. So I've excluded them. So these are in some cases, changes in amounts of funding. We have, as I indicate, in the budget, $120,000. This is total proposed funding of $116,000, so we have another $4,000. So if anybody would like to make any changes, propose another agency, I suppose we could do that. Otherwise, what I would like is a motion to approve the proposed funding for each of these agencies for 2019-2020.
Is Elder Day back up and running?
Yes, Elder Day fortunately is back up and running. And I've had communication with them. They have I noticed, they're back in the Bethany Ministry Center. They have a sign out there. They virtually have, I think, everybody, all their clients who previously were being served, who have been reestablished, they've hired back almost all of their staff. They have a new executive director and a new board.
On the Batavia United Way,
Yeah,
that is an organization that makes disbursements to other social service agencies, right?
yeah. What the Batavia United Way grant is a specific program for Success by Six, which is funding a pre-kindergarten program.
Kindergarten enrichment program.
Yeah, kindergarten enrichment program.
And it's limited to that, or it's?
Yeah, it's solely for that purpose.
It serves, I think last year served like 22 residents, 22 students or something like that. They qualified for it.
Okay, well, I move that we approve the grants and social service agencies as listed on the proposed funding in our packet.
Great.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Donna,
Yes?
Bartholomew,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Great. Next on our agenda, we have with us Karina Villa, who is our state representative representing the 49th district. Technically, in the Batavia Township, we actually have 3 state representatives for portions. But Karina represents most of Batavia Township and along with some other places. So Karina, tell us about what you know, what you reflect upon as what's going on in the state legislature. In particular, I think how you feel about, township government.
Yeah, so thank you for inviting me and for allowing me to be here today at your meeting. Springfield has been a wonderful experience. I've been able to hear a lot of what the constituents' concerns have been throughout the 49th district, and then bring that to Springfield in order to help with legislation and vote the way that I have heard that the constituents would want me to vote. One vote that was pretty important, I know, to you all was the township government bill that was out there as a result of some situation that I think was going on in, was it McHenry? Is that right? County, McHenry Township. And you all will want to thank a gentleman by the name of Marty McMahon from Wayne Township. You will want to give him a call and thank him for reaching out to me and giving me a heads up on this bill, because had I not heard from him, I would have probably supported the bill. But he, through our work together on the campaign trail and him knowing me, reached out and said, Karina, I need to talk to you about this bill, and let me tell you why I don't think that you should support it. So I did end up voting against it, but with all candor and openness, I did say to him, Marty, I will oppose this bill this time, but I cannot promise you in the future that I will continue to vote in this way, because as you all know, the state of Illinois, although we have made some positive strides with some of the legislation that was passed, including the capital bill, and including some of the cannabis legislation that will bring revenue, including the casino bills that will bring revenue to the state, that still is not enough to get us out of the path that we are on that really needs some fixing. So I was very open with him, as I'll be with you, and I would welcome conversations with you all in terms of your thoughts of how we might help our state from kind of this trajectory that we're on. That's pretty difficult, and a lot of the conversations that the constituents are having is the property tax, and how are we going to relieve property tax pains on those of us who are homeowners. I was fortunate enough to request and to be placed on the governor's property tax relief task force. I believe probably half of those of us who are elected officials requested to be on it, and I think that most of us were granted permission. So I don't know if I was lucky to be selected or not lucky, but nonetheless, we had our first meeting in Chicago yesterday. And part of that discussion will be cities and townships. So I would welcome your feedback for me to take to the table. In specifically in regards to cities and townships and property taxes.
Well, this township's a little unique because we're along the river frontier. But a typical home, a medium-priced home, pays about $6,000 in taxes. Under $100 of that goes to the general township and the road district. So you could do away with these two units of government, but I don't think it's going to change anybody's tax bill enough that they'll jump for joy. But we do quite a service for the area.
I think this is the important thing about townships. We're pretty efficient in the way we spend our money.
Tell me about the employees of the township and the payout to the employees and the pensions or such. Tell me about that.
The biggest payouts are in the road district. My guys are not union, so they don't make anywhere near what the city workers make. They do have insurance, and they have an IMRF fund. It's always been, and we have, being that we're not unionized, we have a lot more flexibility on hours. So our people are overtime down. They take time off instead in a lot of cases. So we team up with other units of government, other townships, joint projects, so we have enough manpower to do them. These are all things that are hard to do under a big unit of government.
Very good. And can you talk to me a little bit more about other services that the township provides?
Essentially, the township provides, the township assessor assesses property, real estate property. So that's one function by the township assessor. The township supervisor provides, in addition to supervising, being the financial arm of the township, supervises general assistance, which is kind of the last resort of public aid. And really, we're very few general assistance cases currently. Layla is also our general assistance caseworker.
It's mandated by the state of Illinois, the general assistance. And then we also offer, it's up to each township individually, we also offer emergency assistance. That's an optional program to try to serve more residents that don't qualify for general assistance that can maybe qualify for emergency assistance.
I think it's important, along with that, is to recognize the various social service agencies in the community. Also, we refer them very often. Layla refers them for assistance if they don't qualify under general assistance or emergency assistance.
I think referrals are a very important
They're
part
important
of what we do.
Right.
Right.
The other thing is that, the township, really, as I always say, is really three units of government. It's the township assessor, the supervisor, and what we do, and general assistance, and then the road highway department.
And if you do away with this aspect of government, the jobs are going to have to be done by somebody. So if the road district is done away with, somebody's going to have to maintain those roads. The question is, can they maintain it at a cheaper cost than what we maintain it at? I think the answer to that clearly is going to be no. The assessor, somebody's going to have to assess the properties. If it's not done under the township government, it's going to have to be done under some other unit of government, so the taxpayers are really going to save nothing by doing this.
So in terms of when taxpayers have any kind of question about their property value, what would the process be like to?
They simply call the township. We've had a whole host of folks in here personally and also calling to, ask about their assessment. And we have three.
And they have at their disposal all the tools to do comps, to compare homes in a given subdivision or an area. With their computer, they can go through and pull out a whole group of homes, say these are similar, and these are the taxes. These are how they're assessed, and yours is right there with it.
So then the homeowner is in charge of researching their assessment value?
No, they can come in here and the assessor's department will do that for them.
Oh, okay.
Most of the time, people are saying it's just too high or out unreasonable.
Right.
And I think 20 or 30 years ago, we had some areas in Batavia that were behind in their assessments. Since I've been here, Tammy's been doing quite a job on getting the assessments in line so that they're all assessed in a proper way.
Sure.
Which has taken a lot of people's taxes and brought them down, even though it brought some like my taxes up because I was in an old development.
What about seniors? Because it sounds like people who maybe have lived in Batavia for a very long time would have maybe seen an increase if they had been underassessed. Like, what assistance is there for seniors through the township?
Through the county, actually. Through the county, there's a senior deferment that they can get. They have to sign up for these things.
Senior exemption. You get
senior exemption. And they can get a senior freeze. They can all, if they get a senior freeze, usually a lien is placed against the property so that when the property is sold, I mean, in other words, the taxes are still gonna go up. But if they freeze the taxes, then there'll be a lien against the property at the time it's sold.
I think the
There's a lot of
important,
things that the girls do over here on a daily basis is help people out with that choice or decisions of how, you know, how to best manage their future.
I think,
Taxes are high, but mostly it's the school district, which we've always voted in Batavia to, pretty much always, to give the school districts a really good go.
Yeah, I mean, that's a wonderful thing about living in the suburbs. We love our schools. We rally around our schools. We want to invest in our schools. I know that that's true in the entirety of the 49th district. I've spent thousands of hours at the doors and talking to people. And when it comes to the schools, people are willing participants in that. But at the same time, it's also the burden of it, right? And so as a state rep, I understand the need to play a strong role and advocate for funding our schools from the state level, because that's our responsibility, right? It shouldn't
We've
be
always done it.
the burden. The burden shouldn't be on the taxpayers.
I think what's important for people to understand is that townships and all the other units of local government are creatures of the state legislature. In other words, we operate according to what you folks in Springfield allow us to do.
as I think also, if you have noticed that Cook County is making efforts to reassess some of their areas right now that to help equalize the taxes in there, because traditionally the higher income areas in Cook County have been taxed lower than the distressed areas in Cook County, and I think they realize that, and there's at least some effort to do that. Whether it's actually going to happen or not, I don't know, but ours, it's pretty much equalized all the time, regardless of age. I mean, the seniors obviously can get a break, but age doesn't make any difference. You know, it's the equalization of the property within that area.
So,
And this has been going on a long time. My in-laws were here in the 60s. They were barely able to afford their taxes.
So where do the tax dollars from the outlet malls go? Do those go to the schools, or
Well,
because I know that it doesn't go to Aurora, the Aurora outlet malls, the Chicago premium outlets. It comes to Batavia. Is that right?
well, it depends. I mean, our boundaries determine that. That is in Aurora School District, but
Yeah, but the money
it's
doesn't
not
go
in
there. I think
Batavia
it comes
Township.
to Batavia. Is that right? Not to the township, but to the schools. I'm just thinking
schools.
property taxes in general. So the schools, property tax rate goes to.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got the pie that divides where the property taxes are going, and that varies from one area to another, sometimes by county, sometimes by city. But the outlet mall, certainly, Aurora gets a lot of that.
But that is the Batavia School District.
Batavia School District,
Not
but it's
Batavia
not,
Township.
not Batavia Township. That's Aurora
Right,
Township and the
I'm
city
just
of
thinking,
Aurora.
right, so the property tax task force is going to address all of these different topics, right? So I
Right.
just am trying to get kind of like an eagle's eye view of Batavia and like where the income comes and where the taxes are going and such. So
Well,
that's
the
why I was
township boundary
wondering.
is set by, the way it was laid out at the start. And the other boundaries, like
1850.
school districts, forest preserve, libraries and all that, were more of land grab things that happened, early on when they realized, hey, if we take that property, and
Yeah, I'll have to talk to
cities too,
I
they
should
annex
talk- yeah.
properties for the taxes.
I should talk to the school,
Yeah.
maybe the Batavia superintendent, just to get a better understanding, because I know I talked to the mayor in Aurora, and he said that the tax dollars from this, even though it's over in Aurora, come to Batavia, and I don't remember exactly why he said that is true, but In any case, we digress. So, so what would you recommend to me to be able to say to some of my colleagues? I have very formidable relationships with my colleagues from across the aisle. It's not what's being told mostly, but I have very amicable relationships with my colleagues from across the aisle, and but I do know that there is a big, strong conversation and a big push from my colleagues to consolidate the townships. So what would you recommend that I might say to my colleagues, what I might say to them when they're talking about consolidation?
I think one of the things to understand about townships is that of all the townships in Illinois, they vary significantly from those of the townships that are north, townships that are Cook County, which are very wealthy. Townships, in some areas downstate are virtually the only form of government.
And usually run out of somebody's house or a farm.
So I think
barn.
it's difficult to talk with a broad stroke about the nature of townships.
Sure.
I think it is true that is up, this is my personal opinion, it is up to townships to prove to the citizens that we're providing services that they need.
And I think coterminous townships, where the boundaries are the same as the cities, I see no problem there, because in a lot of cases they're duplicating the services. Springfield Township and City of Springfield are coterminous. And that's where your lawmakers are.
So your statement, just to go back to, that it's up to townships to prove their worth and such there. So the bill, I think, was McHenry saying that just to allow McHenry voters to decide whether or not they wanted to get rid of the township. Would that go along with your perspective then?
The problem is that you need to educate the voters.
If you ask the average voter, what does the township do? They're not going to know. I mean, they may know that their assessment is done through the township, but they don't know the other services that they provide. Now, I would say I was supervisor for 34 years, and I tried to get a senior service committee started, a youth committee started. Nobody was really interested, but we would sometimes be overlapping what the Park District does, what the senior citizens committees do. We have senior complexes here that provide their own services. And so everyone is different. Geneva has, just 2 miles from here, has a very nice senior center. But a lot of people from Batavia go there. So, I mean, it's the services that they provide that...
And part of the monies that the road district gets, almost half of my general road fund is distributed back to the municipalities that are within the township. Batavia, of course, gets the bulk of it, but North Aurora gets some, Aurora gets a little bit. That was a way to give back to the municipalities, that even though their people were being taxed, they still got revenues back to help them with their road improvement projects.
I only have one copy of this, and I doubt that very many of the legislatures or state senators or anything have ever read this report. It's been out 5 years, 6 years or so. It was an independent report done showing the viability of townships and how they can do the work that they do a lot less than if you go up to another bureaucracy. Because every time you go up a level, it's going to require more people, more supervisors, more people standing around doing basically nothing. And because of unions and everything, we're not union. And even though we have to comply sometimes with, what's the regulation?
Prevailing wage.
Yeah, Prevailing Wage Act, where we cannot have anything done as far as construction by anybody that is not getting prevailing wage. That doesn't mean they have to be union. It's just that whoever we hire to do, say, a road job or something else has to pay their employees union wages. And if you look at those union wages, there's nothing cheap there. Also, I'd like to ask you how you feel that the increase in taxes you will be getting from like marijuana, the casinos and everything, how does that adversely affect the people that are going to be using these products? And is it worth it to have that much additional problems in order to gain a few tax dollars for the state? And, you know, I just feel that a lot of lives are going to be ruined because the state needs money and they're going to sin taxes in order to get the money that they need, but there's other ways.
So the other ways to get money,
Yep.
is that what you're saying? And what
Well,
would be what
I'll
would be
give
some
you an
of those
example.
ideas?
The FOID card, you know what that is?
I guess so.
Okay. I think the last time it was $5 for 10 years.
That's right.
Now I think it's $10 for 10 years.
Yep, that's right.
Anybody that owns a gun, regardless of whether they use it or not, I had a FOID card for 40 years and I never owned a gun. But it was so cheap that I thought, well, what the heck, maybe sometimes I will. You could charge $20 a year, $25 a year. Most gun owners can afford that per year, not for 10 years. And not only that, once they've got the FOID card, what checks and balances are there after they get them?
That is a brilliant idea, which has been written into legislation that we did not get to pass out of the Senate. It's called Fix the FOID, sir. And
I
what
know,
you're
and I
talking
called
about
you.
is a wonderful idea, and I definitely agree with you because there's a lot of unfortunate things that are happening in our society regarding guns. But I do agree that is, and I am not looking for Fix the FOID to be a revenue source. I am looking for it to be a source of finding solutions to getting guns off of the street and getting these conceal and carry license off of the street when people should have let's say I have a license and it's been revoked. I get a letter in the mail and that's it.
Right.
No one comes to ask to pick it up. Because the police don't have
They don't
the
have the funds.
capacity. They don't have the funds. So Fix the FOID is intended to assist with that situation. I do appreciate the concern about the marijuana legislation, and let me address that just for a second. Cannabis has been around since before I was born. People have been using cannabis since before I was born. We got to a point where we were taking people who were using cannabis and putting them in jail. Putting them in prison, getting, the 3 strikes and you're out rule. So then that we realized was definitely not the way to go. So then we, in Illinois, said we're going to decriminalize marijuana. And so we started to decriminalize it and say, okay, well, it's still illegal, but it's decriminalized, which was kind of a confusing situation to be a part of, right? So now it's decriminalized, and what can we do then after that? So let's find a way to regulate it instead of allowing people to be selling it on the black market and lacing it with things that are not, that they shouldn't be lacing it with, and let's find a way to tax it and to use that revenue for some public good. So as kind of equivalent to the days of the Prohibition, right? People were still making alcohol and using it. So it's, I do understand your concern. I hear you loud and clear about that. It was a concern of mine as well, which is why when I was lucky enough to have a seat at the table, so not with all legislation are we invited to have a seat at the table, but with the cannabis legislation, I was invited to have a seat at the table. And one of the things that I fought hard for was to make sure that 20% of the revenue went towards mental health services. This was something that was non-negotiable to me, that we know that there is going to be a certain percentage of the population that they're going to become addicted and they're going to need services, just like there's a certain percentage of people who have an alcoholic drink and become addicted to that, and we should find ways to provide services for addictions counseling. And it's the same thing with cannabis. So we were able to make sure that happened, that 20% of the revenue does go towards that. And it was the same conversation that I had when it came to gambling. And gambling in the state of Illinois has been legal for a very long time. You know, I was not around when we passed legislation to have what are those little machines called in stores, in restaurants or whatever.
Video poker.
Those video gaming machines. I was not around when that legislation passed, but I was very concerned about it. I was concerned about having such easy access. So when we talked about expanding casinos and allowing more licenses, one thing that I was very adamant about was making sure that how are we going to spend money for addictions counseling? Are we going to provide that there's addictions counseling money? And some pushback that I received from some legislators was, well, there is a pot of money for addictions counseling and it's not being used. And the city of Chicago is the only area that's actually using the money. And I said, well, that's confusing because I'm sure that there are people addicted to gambling outside of Cook County. So how do we access it, and how do we make sure that people out in my district, if they have an addictions problem, if they can, that we can provide services for addiction gambling. So I didn't let up, and I was adamant about making sure that we had money allowed for communities if they wanted to provide services for addiction counseling, for gambling, for marijuana, and then put that into as well alcohol addictions and the opioid crisis that we're encountering. And these are before being a legislator, I was a social worker, and that's always going to be a topic I will bring to the table. And it's great to report that in Springfield the topic of mental health has now become a very bipartisan issue. It's not something that this is only a Republican topic that we want to champion, or a Democrat topic that we want to champion. It's now everyone is ready to talk about mental health, which is a great thing to have happen. But I definitely hear your concerns.
Well, another thing, I think you will check to see what the drop in revenues is, the casino gambling, over the last 10 years. Elgin Riverboat gives a lot of money to different agencies, but that has dropped dramatically in the last years. And when you're going to thin out something that is already not doing well and opening more casinos, I think it's just I'm not against gambling per se. I do a little casino trip over northern Wisconsin and Minnesota every year, but I can afford it. And the thing is, a lot of the people that go to casinos can't afford it. And
it's heartbreaking. So, have you heard of Metropolis, Illinois?
Sure.
World's largest Superman, and Harrah's Casino. Well, so I happened to find myself in Metropolis, Illinois, and drove through the downtown. I was heading down to Tennessee to visit family, and so we stopped to go see the Superman statue, and to get there off of the highway, it was pretty heartbreaking to drive through that downtown. I don't know if any of you have been there recently, but it was pretty heartbreaking. And as I was driving to get back onto the highway, I saw the sign of the Harrah's, and I was like, oh, well, let me go. I want to go see this, because we had, it was after I'd already become a legislator, so I wanted to see what this was like. So I went over, and it was this big casino, and I got to thinking, like, with what you're saying, right? Like, this is not going to be the fix everything for people to build a casino. So I drove around, and it was pretty tough, pretty heartbreaking. So I talked to the state representative down there about a month or two after that to ask him, tell me about Harrah's when it first came. Tell me about what it was like. And he said it was booming, and a lot of money came to the community, and the casino, they were great stewards in the community and provided, great things for the schools and for the town, and then it kind of had its peak. It had great success, and then all of a sudden their income started shrinking, so their commitment to the community started dropping. Although he says if the casino wasn't there, our town would not have any kind of income. So he painted a picture of pluses and minuses. He painted a picture that was, it was great when it was great, and now it's better than nothing. So yeah, I hear what you're saying, and Aurora has their casino, Elgin has their casino. Neither of them are in the 49th district, but obviously I represent parts of Elgin, parts of Aurora. So it's a concern, and I think that the people who live in those communities have to have very long thoughts of what they want to do. Those communities who have the licenses now, what they want to do, how they want to approach it, what their vision is for their cities. And see, I'll be very curious to see what they do, and hopefully they do some good. That's my hope, that the community members put some real long thought into it.
Karina, I want to thank you for being with us. And I want to thank you for having an office in Batavia. And you're accessible to us, and we'll keep contact.
Absolutely. I don't know if we're in session, if that's veto session, when you all will be down there.
No, one of the curious things of this, the TOI conference always happens when the legislature is not in session. But we do the Township Officials in Illinois does do an annual legislative thing. So hopefully we can be down there and
keep me posted. Absolutely.
We will do that.
Well, thank you. And it's better for me to come and visit you here in district than in Springfield anyways, because in Springfield it's like we're running. And
I know.
I appreciate you coming, but you also saw how we take care of money here. We don't have a lot of money, but a lot of eyes looks at what's going on to make sure every dime is spent where it's supposed to be spent. We create a budget. All townships do this. We have a balanced budget. We don't go outside of our budget. And I think it's a lesson that you might want to move down where you work.
Well,
Yay.
I have a perfect record because we got a budget and we passed the budget, so I have a perfect record so far.
I think if we watched where the dollars went as critically as we do and stuck to their budgets, some of this money issue would start to get better in Illinois.
Absolutely. Yep.
Some of it's too far out of control, I realize that. But thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate the recording. I think that's a great way to be accessible to your constituents. So thank you for that too.
Next item on our, we have no, is public participation. We have no public.
I can get a copy.
So,
I would appreciate it if you...
So, I don't know. Next on the agenda, are there any trustee reports? Any other business? I will announce that the next board meeting is September 10th. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved and second to adjourn. Clerk will call the roll.
Bertomeo.
Aye.
Donnet.
Aye.
Aye.